Welcome back to Close Up. We've said it before, we'll say it again. Republicans are desperate to find a winner in the 2nd Congressional District. And this summer, they have a number of candidates to choose from. Former Nashua State Rep Casey Crane is in the mix, and she joins us this morning in studio. Casey, thanks for being here.
Hey, good morning, Adam. It's great. Yeah, good morning, Adam. It's great to see you. Gotta get my radio voice
going.
going.
I know, right? Get it going. Tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're running.
Sure, absolutely. My name's Casey Crane. I'm a multi-term state representative. I've been in the state for over 25 years, and I'm running for a lot of reasons. Number one, I think we've lost our common sense. I am common sense Casey. That's number one. Number two is constituent service. I think the way to beat the Republicans, for the Republicans to beat the Democrats, is constituent service. The Republicans can win based on constituent service. Annie Kuster has done a horrible job with constituent service. If you go to Sullivan County and you talk to the people that have not gotten their FEMA reimbursements and 3 years, 4 years backlogged, you're going to find people that are losing their homes. This is horrible constituent service. Go to Keene. They go and they call our office and it's ring, 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 ring. So we have a real problem in this state with constituent service, and I don't hear any of the other candidates talking about this. I know, for instance, up in Coos County, they've got a huge problem with people buying up land, California companies, because of the carbon credits. They've got 12 miles up there that they don't even have electricity. I mean, I have sat in meetings in 2007 with Executive Counselor Joe Kenney, who's endorsed me, by the way, and, you know, we were talking about why they don't have cell tower coverage, how spotty it is, how dangerous that is. There are issues all over this state that I know about because I have served. I'm the only candidate to actually win an election. Is that amazing? Out of all of the Republicans running, I'm the only candidate to win an election. More importantly, I'm the only candidate who has served. So here's my point. If you are sitting there and you are knee-deep in water in your front yard, and you call for constituent service, do you want to get Vikram, who told you, by the way, on Close Up, the reason he's running is that the issues I care deeply about are all federal issues. So there aren't many jobs for me in New Hampshire to go after. It's either U.S. Senate or U.S. House. Well, I got news for you. Federal issues are like this with local and state issues. If you've been a selectman, you know what I'm talking about. If you've been a state rep. I remember in Nashua, I helped start the cancer relay. There was a woman there, her brother basically had given up. He had cancer. They brought him to their house and he didn't want to go in. He didn't want to stay there. He felt like a burden. Well, luckily, working with local officials, state officials, federal officials, we got that gentleman, that veteran, a home, and he died with dignity. And I heard many, many, many times from her every time I'd see her in the store, thank God for you, Casey. Thank God you helped us get that veteran an apartment. Now, here's the problem. If you look at all of our candidates, we're going to be very similar, okay? We're going to be very similar. The border is horrible. It's bankrupting America. One issue I have that stands out that I really care about is I want Sununu to sign, HB 1205 and the bathroom bill as well, because girls' sports matters and girls' sports are for girls. So I brought Riley Gaines to the State House. I tried to encourage Sununu using Riley to sign this bill. I don't know what's happening with that. But the point is that, you know, on the federal issues, you're going to find all the Republicans are worried about the country going broke. We want energy independence and we want energy diversity. Where I differ is, and why I can win, is because I know how to do constituent service. And if you have a problem, you want somebody in that office that actually answers the phone, knows who to call, knows how to break through the red tape. Being a businessman is fine. You know, I've been an entrepreneur myself, but the problem is this. It doesn't run like a business. God, I wish it did, but it does not run like a business. You need to know how to cut through the red tape and help people solve problems. That's why Ken Weiler has endorsed me. That's why Jean Guy down in Pelham has endorsed me. That's why I've got a lot of the reps in Coos County, almost all of them in Pelham and all over the state. They know I know how to do constituent service, and they know I'm a strong Republican. I didn't move here 5 years ago, okay? These people haven't been in the state long enough to run for this office.
Well, you mentioned a couple of issues there, the border and this idea of who can compete in interscholastic sports. On the issue of transgender athletes in sports, what are you going to do in Congress? Is there a Title IX angle? I mean, how do you plan to take any action?
I plan on launching a national ban against transgenders playing sports. And it's going to be based on the New Hampshire bill. So we're going to look at the New Hampshire bill, which they did. Obviously, it's not going to start at kindergarten. It's going to start like the New Hampshire bill does, and it's going to go up and potentially through college, because I think that this is a serious issue. I myself worked at a school where a girl was thrown to the ground. She was hurt, and unfortunately, we had to leave the game. We were the ones that had to forfeit. I don't think it's right that you can tell a girl that she has no rights to say who comes into her locker room. And that's why I urged Sununu to sign both bills. Because you know what? Why is it everybody's so inclusive until it comes to our rights? You know, they're not inclusive of us. And by the way, this is part of the reason I love Donald Trump. I have been with Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate, really, of the main two that we're up against here that has been with Donald Trump since 2016 when I endorsed him. And I will tell you that there's a Trump train, if you want to get on it, July 28th, meet us at the Hobby Lobby at 8:30. Dave Abear's very, very good at his job and is
let's talk about this Supreme Court decision that essentially said that the President of the United States has absolute immunity for actions excuse me, taken within the Constitution and presumptive immunity for things that are sort of around that, that essentially that official actions have presumptive immunity. You're a small government Republican. Does this sound like the country that the founders envisioned, having a president with this much power?
You know what? The presidents have always had a lot of powers, and actually the Constitution leaves a lot open for presidents to have powers. The issue is this. Unfortunately, because of the political persecution of Donald Trump, we have gone after this president, but we have turned a blind eye to everything that Biden and his son have done. And, you know, there just simply is not an even reasoning of judicial prudence, just like we're going after conservatives in this country, just like we're going after parental rights. Now, I will tell you, as a conservative Republican, and I have a record, I'm not just wearing a shirt. I helped pass HB 811, which said firearm dealers, gun shops, they didn't have the liability. They did not have liability, and a lot of other things I voted on. And I will tell you that conservatives, gun owners are being, you know, targeted. We also have parental rights. We have people that go to school committees, they get arrested. You want to talk about what's going on with judicial in this country? I mean, Biden has used the power of the presidency to target his opponent.
But you support the decision.
Like
what it says, but what the Supreme Court said is as long as Biden says he's taking an official action, he can essentially do whatever he wants. You support that?
You know, I don't. I don't support him doing what he's doing right now.
So would you support another president taking that kind of action?
You know, you got to go circumstance by circumstance, and you got to look at what's going on behind the scenes. You can't just, I mean, you've got what are the factors? Were there, you know, documents left in Delaware? Yeah. Did they knock down the door to go get them? No. So everything, you know, having powers is one thing. How you implement it is something else.
So as a member of Congress, would you be standing up for the legislative power, the constitutional power of the Congress, or would you be okay with the president, say a second Trump administration, doing whatever it wants with this new Supreme Court
You know,
decision?
I always prefer the legislature having more power and local government having the most power, because government is best when it is at the local level. And that's why I'm shocked that my opponent would say that he is running because he's interested in the federal issues only. I mean, the fact is that the local issues and the state issues are the most important. They rise up and they... Look, we've got federal block grants. We've got a lot of things where the federal has to work with the local to make it work. And if you've been in local government, you understand what I'm saying. If you've been a state rep, you understand what I'm saying. Okay, this is not just about Ukraine or this or that. It's about passports. It's about veteran mortgages. It's about veterans' health care. It's about a lot of issues that people called me about. And I'm sure, you know, if you're a selectman, if you're a state rep, you get calls about everything. I got calls about local issues, state issues, national issues.
What about the issue of abortion? Where do you stand on that, and what position would you be taking down to Washington?
You know, I'm basically going to give you the same answer I think every other Republican has given you, which is I believe that what we've got right now, it's in the state hands. I would leave it in the state hands, and I would support the 6 months that's in the state hands at this point, because the state now has to decide what is best for the state of New Hampshire.
So in the last decade, Republican Congresses have passed, you know, essentially 20-week abortion bans. If that came back, are you a yes vote or a no vote?
You know, again, I would want the state level to pass it first, you know, because I think we need to take our direction at this point from the state.
But how are you voting, though, in Washington?
Yeah, I would vote based on what the state was saying that they wanted for the people of New Hampshire.
So essentially, you would be okay approving a New Hampshire-style law,
if New
24
Hampshire
weeks.
approved it, I would bring it forward in D.C.
Okay. I want to ask you something I've asked just about every CD2 candidate. Obviously, sure. You know, energy is huge. You mentioned that. And Western New Hampshire is a natural place to bring in a pipeline if we're going to bring more natural gas from Albany. Of course, a lot of constituents don't support that idea. Would you be in favor of a new natural gas pipeline coming through the 2nd District?
No. because, you know, I was there for the Northern Pass issue, and I will tell you right now, I was also there for the people in Newfound Lakes with the wind issue. I was standing right by, you know, by Joe Kenny and actually Jim Lawrence, and we were all holding signs. And these things have to be done in certain places. Do I believe we should have a mix of energy? Absolutely. Because the bad actors of the world have figured out that, you know, they're going to push us all towards electric, then they're going to hit the electric grid. And I don't like people telling me what kind of car to buy. You know, we need our fossil fuels. We're going to freeze. Again, common sense.
Casey Crane, thanks for joining us on Close Up. We appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Adam.
All right.